Well, you know, like obviously now it has a huge resonances, you know, in all sorts of ways, in Japan, in North Korea, in Iran, and that sort of naive, whatever it was, hard sell that they gave us of nuclear power in the 50s, late 50s, and where it is now. I mean, my father was a nuclear physicist, and you know, he went to Imperial College in London, and he used to walk around with like test tubes of plutonium in the late 50s, unprotected. That's just what they did then. They didn't know it was dangerous. So that sort of naivety, you know, and yet, which is, you know, I love about, that's the reason I wanted to call the band that, one of the big reasons, with this sort of naivety, and then underneath all this fucking darkness and where it's ended up and what it's become, you know.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying, but also like just like, you know, atoms for peace. It sounds, it's like,
yeah.
It's like this sort of, it expresses a weird kinetic energy, but like a serenity as well, which are like with nothing to do with any of the Eisenhower stuff at all, you know. But it also makes me think of like this crisis we have now, how we're going to generate power, you know, in the super collider, and trying to find some clean power source that's going to save the human race or not. Like I said, my father was a nuclear physicist, and he used to go to Sellafield in Britain. When he stopped being a nuclear physicist, he still worked in that world, and he used to go and see the spent fuel rods which are racked up inside Sellafield, and he used to come back, you know, worried, saying if that explodes, it's going to be terrible. And that's true throughout the world. You know, they've come up with no way of disposing of the waste. It's not financially viable, nuclear power. It's incredibly dangerous. But yet, I have some very close friends of mine who are environmentalists who still say that it's the only way that we're going to get out of the global warming crisis. You know, which is
dependence on fossil fuel.
Yeah, but you know, it's all tied up with all sorts of other things, and I have to, you know, the fact that when Germany chose to announce that it was going to stop using nuclear power and roll away its nuclear capability, you know, that was a big step, and I hope Japan chooses to do the same. And to do anything else would be insane. That's me. But for some reason, it's not as simple as that, right? That's what I'm told. Okay. You know, but in Britain, I know that's more what I know. I know the fact that Britain, quietly, the government says they don't think that they can make nuclear power viable because they can't underwrite the disposal of the waste. You know, we can't afford to do it. And no company has stepped forward to say that they will build them. So actually, they're not going to get built, but the government can't say that because they don't want to be seen to be backing away from it, because that would be to say we don't know how we're going to get out of the energy crisis, so they won't do that because they'll lose votes. But you know, personally speaking, I think nuclear power is dead, but you have to remember how incredibly powerful its lobbying is, because if that industry dies, an awful lot of people will lose an awful lot of money, you know, and they are, much like the oil industry, trying absolutely everything they possibly can to make it look like it's viable when it's not.
He loves it.
Yeah, it's great. It's like my dream.
That's why I did it.
Michael, what was it?
Emerson, Lake and
Emerson,
Palmer.
Lake and Palmer.
He's
Brilliant.
like, you know what my favourite
what
band is? I want to be like them.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? Because everything, you know, whatever you do and how everything rolls out, it always gets labelled as something. You know, you're labelled in your role and what you do. Your music is labelled. The people you hang out with, you're labelled.
Does that mean my laptop's part of a supergroup?
Yeah. It's a super...
It's a super laptop.
Laptop, yeah. It doesn't feel like, I mean... It doesn't really... I mean, I don't... Somebody, you know, obviously you do interviews in succession, and there was a previous journalist, believe it or not, who brought that up and was asking, and the follow-on question was like, and what's your favourite supergroup? And we're like...
That didn't take long.
You know, like, we actually couldn't think of it. I mean, I couldn't think of any.
Well, there aren't.
You know, what, you know, it's like, it's such a weird, bizarre concept. It feels like
Cream?
a sort of Cream was the one. He said, that's the ultimate supergroup. We were both like, oh, we don't really like Cream.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Duh.
This is a bit more like the Travelling Wilburys than Cream.
Don't say that, they'll use that.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's funny, I didn't realise how dark some people think of that phrase, because to me amok was quite a joyful thing, you know, it was quite playful, and then someone from Holland comes and said amok was about the Indonesians.
They had a colony, the Dutch had a colony in Indonesia.
Yeah, taken to the streets and killing indiscriminately.
Yeah.
And they'd had enough of the occupation, of being occupied.
They were running amok. Apparently it's a literal translate, that's what it means in Dutch. We're like, oh shit, we were thinking more like, you know, kids running around.
Yeah, playfully, like, fucking about. So, yeah, that doesn't help with the question at all, does it? Sorry.
Japanese fan message.
Yeah, fan message, if they do this. Yeah. So what would you say? Oh. I would say, hopefully we're going to come next year. I will see you then. And hopefully we had a lot of fun doing the Fuji Rock thing. So more of that in it.
More of that, please.
Please.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.